which is called Blue and White. But the point here is that they had like multiple songs with the whole school spirit theme that are named Blue and White and Help 'Em on Hell, right, that sort of thing. And I suppose what we really should be talking about is the school history itself, and that the writer was given the Trustee Medal of Honor in 1972, and they created a scholarship to honor him, although he flunked out after a year, and as far as we know, he was just a terrible student, which I think that there should be a discussion about that, and I'm surprised that they're focusing on something so minor as the alma mater, which as far as we know, it was never a big deal to anyone until someone tried to change it. I looked through the Norton papers, which are basically the papers that the deans leave behind, and he doesn't leave any executive decision about this, and he was the dean at that time, so this wasn't important to him. And there are maybe 60 boxes of Blaisdell papers, which sounds like a team effort, but I'm gonna guess that that's probably not important either. So essentially, I guess my last question would be, what do you think the caution about the situation?
I think as it currently stands with the school song suspended, I think that's a prudent decision for the moment, and I don't think there should be. It is currently suspended, correct?
At graduation and commencement, yeah.
Through so far, I think there is an abundance, and having researched this, there's an abundance of Pomona College history, and there is an abundance of Pomona College school songs, and there's abundance of all of these resources. And the question is, why should we limit ourselves to a song that has now been tainted for whatever reason by this, when we can find a perfectly good substitute? And I think that perhaps, as is currently happening, that the committee that is meeting should make a judgment on it, an informed judgment, and the song should probably be moved on from, although not necessarily swept under the rug. I do think it's an interesting topic, and I think it's important to recognize our history, even if we don't necessarily want to know what that history is.
I'm probably going to shoot that last question over.
Who's printing? Christian fundraisers, Christian scholarships.
So let me shoot the last question.
Sure.
So, as a researcher and seeing the facts about this, what direction do you think the school should take?
Like I was saying, I think as of now the school's actions have been very prudent, which is a suspension of the song indefinitely until a decision can be reached. That decision should be reached through a committee as is currently in existence, comprised of faculty, students, alums, trustees if they're willing. And once that judgment is reached, I would think, as a researcher who has looked into this, it would become obvious that the song is of an offensive nature to certain populations now currently, participating in the school, and that it should be abandoned as an official school, song, and a suitable alternative should be found. With that said, I'd like to point out that I don't think this part of the history of Pomona College should be swept under the rug. I don't think it should just be disbanded now that we know that the school song is somehow tainted with this evil history, that we should fail to acknowledge the role that it had for nigh on 80 years in the school community.
Definitely. I don't think there even should have been a reaction. I felt like if they had phrased this history in their own words and made it look respectable, there wouldn't have been such a need to research it at all. And I feel like this can be applied to a slew of other topics here at Pomona. There was like a lot of sexism in the 80s and 70s. There is the Christian rounds, which is not entirely related, but there's the whole thing about the segregated campus by sex, where the men lived on North Campus, the women lived on South Campus, and the women had a curfew at 6 o'clock. So that's why all the doors on South Campus have glass doors on the outside. If they missed their curfew, they were punished. The men didn't have a curfew. All these kinds of things you learn eventually if you want to, but they don't really tell you up front, which is understandable. But I definitely think what should happen is a broader discussion on the facts, and I think that would resolve some people's, problem situation with the idea of change.
I think it should also be mentioned, Cyrus, that in Lyon's History of Pomona College, 1888 to 1969, there's an upfront admittance of the fact that this was a minstrel show. And in that history, in that time period, perhaps it still was not as stigmatized and necessarily understood as it is today. And so at that point, the school administration chose to admit it openly in a publication, and then move on from it. And to that degree, it should also be understood that perhaps this school history was just forgotten with time, and we should make sure that the institutions that we continue to support are equally understood in our own day, rather than let a history kind of lapse out of existence and the institution remain.
Yeah, exactly. You have any other thoughts?
Just that I encourage any interested Pomona students to research. There's a wealth of information and opportunities and grants available to do research, and I would like to thank the Hart Institute specifically for granting me mine and giving me a great summer. So, that's it, and good luck with your research. So I'm going to run, actually have a meeting, I think. If you want to take a look at that though and tell me if you need more